Tonight, we begin a quiet journey, not outward to somewhere new, but inward into simple awareness. We will reflect on the wisdom of the Buddha, teachings that have brought comfort to restless minds for more than 2,500 years. These teachings are not rules to obey or ideas to memorize. They are gentle invitations, invitations to see more clearly, to relax your tight grip, and to rediscover a peace that has always been inside you. We will walk this path through ancient stories and simple, deep truths. They are not meant for the busy thinking mind, but for the calm, knowing heart. You will learn to notice your thoughts as they come and go, no longer in control, but like clouds passing through the sky. Even difficult emotions can be seen in this way, not as enemies, but as messages guiding you toward understanding and healing. You are welcome here. This space is a sanctuary, a place where your mind can rest and your spirit can be gently nourished. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to fix, and no one you need to become. Just listen. Let these words flow over you and through you. If this quiet reflection speaks to something deep within you, you are welcome to return whenever you need to remember the peace that has always been yours. For now, take a slow breath. Let yourself settle, and let us begin this journey together. Our movement toward deep peace begins by gently and honestly noticing how our own minds work. It begins with one of the Buddha's most basic teachings, a truth that, when clearly seen, opens the way to freedom. This teaching is often translated as suffering, but it can be understood more simply as friction. It is the quiet, ongoing sense that something is slightly off, that life never feels completely settled. This friction shows up when we fight against the natural flow of life. We hold tightly to what feels good and resist what feels uncomfortable. In doing so, the mind creates stress. This is not a failure or a personal weakness. It is a natural part of being human when the mind has not yet learned how to rest. When we stop running from this friction and instead look at it with kindness and curiosity, something begins to change. By turning toward it rather than away, we take the first true step toward a steady peace, one that does not depend on circumstances and cannot easily be disturbed. There is an old story about a young woman named Mara, who lived in a small village at the base of a great mountain. Mara was a weaver, and her skill was unmatched. She created tapestries of rare beauty, filled with bright colors and fine patterns, as delicate as a spider's web. People traveled from distant places to buy her work, and she became well known for her talent. Over time, Mara tied her sense of worth closely to her weaving. She believed, "I am a great weaver. This is who I am." For a while, this belief brought her joy and pride. But as her reputation grew, a quiet fear began to follow. Each new tapestry felt like it had to surpass the last. At night, she lay awake, her thoughts racing with designs, worrying that one day her inspiration might disappear. Slowly, the joy of creating was mixed with tension and pressure. Then one day, a messenger from the royal court arrived with a request from the king himself. He asked for a tapestry that would capture the heart of the entire kingdom, its forests and rivers, its people and its spirit. It was the greatest honor Mara had ever received, and it filled her with fear. She built a larger loom and bought the finest silk and threads of gold. But when the time came to begin, her hands shook. Days passed, then weeks. The size of the task felt overwhelming, and the weight of expectation left her unable to move. The fear of not being perfect, of not matching her own reputation, became a cage she could not leave. Her loom stood unused, a silent reminder of her fear. The workshop that once filled her with joy now felt heavy and cold. She grew quiet and unhappy, the friction in her ME in a constant ache. One evening, unable to sit with that feeling any longer, Mara walked up the mountain path as the sun began to sink. She reached a small hermitage where an old nun lived, a woman known for her calm presence and gentle wisdom. With a trembling voice, Mara shared her struggle. The nun listened without interruption, her gaze steady and peaceful. When Mara finished, the nun did not give advice or try to fix anything. She simply said, "Come, let us watch the sunset." They sat together on a rock overlooking the valley. The sky slowly filled with deep oranges, soft pinks, and fading purples. The scene was beautiful, yet constantly changing, never staying the same from one moment to the next. "No one asked the sunset to stay still," the nun said quietly. "Its beauty is in how it fades. It does not compare itself to yesterday's sunset. It does not try to improve. It simply appears, and then it passes." Then she turned to Mara with great kindness. "You are not the weaver," she, in a constant ache. One evening, unable to sit with that feeling any longer, Mara walked up the mountain path as the sun began to sink. She reached a small hermitage where an old nun lived, a woman known for her calm presence and gentle wisdom. With a trembling voice, Mara shared her struggle. The nun listened without interruption, her gaze steady and peaceful. When Mara finished, the nun did not give advice or try to fix anything. She simply said, "Come, let us watch the sunset." They sat together on a rock overlooking the valley. The sky slowly filled with deep oranges, soft pinks, and fading purples. The scene was beautiful, yet constantly changing, never staying the same from one moment to the next. No one asked the sunset success, and she was not her fear. She was the open space in which both of these experiences came and went. That night, she walked back down the mountain beneath a sky filled with stars. In the quiet of that moment, nothing needed to be solved. Nothing needed to be proven. The next morning, Mara returned to her workshop. She stood before her loom, took a slow breath, and began to weave. She did not aim for greatness or perfection. She simply wove what was present in her heart that day. The muted tones of her fear, the rough texture of her anxiety, and also the deep purple of the sunset and the soft silver of starlight. The tapestry that emerged was unlike any she had made before. It was not flawless, but it was real. It carried depth and movement. It felt alive. And in allowing every part of herself to be included, not only the parts she admired, Mara discovered a quiet freedom. Mara's story is also our own. The friction, what the Buddha called dukkha, is not the challenge itself, nor the fear of failing. It is the tight grip on who we think we must be. It is the refusal to allow the full range of human experience to move through us. The Buddha's first noble truth points directly to this reality. Life naturally includes moments that are painful or unwanted. Illness, loss, and disappointment are woven into the fabric of living. They are not mistakes. They are part of the terrain we all must walk. The second noble truth teaches that our suffering does not come from difficult events themselves, but from our craving for life to be different than it is. Mara suffered because she wanted to be only the perfect weaver and nothing else. She pushed away fear and doubt, believing they had no place in her work or in herself. This craving is not unusual. It is how an untrained mind naturally reacts. We are taught to seek what feels pleasant and avoid what feels uncomfortable. We shape our identities around success and strength, while trying to hide our weakness and uncertainty. But this effort is like trying to block a river with a wall. The water keeps flowing, and the pressure only grows. the Buddha offered a bold and freeing invitation. Stop building the wall. See clearly that craving and resistance are what create the pressure we feel inside. When we chase happiness as something fixed and lasting, disappointment follows, because all things change. When we try to escape sadness, we give it more control over us. Wisdom begins when we turn toward our experience with kindness and steady courage. It asks us to open our arms wider, to include every thread of our lives, both bright and dark. This insight is deeply empowering. It shows us that peace does not come from fixing the outside world, but from changing how we meet it within. We cannot stop the river of life from moving, but we can learn how to flow with it. Balance comes not from fighting the current, but from understanding it and moving alongside it. To bring this into your own life, you do not need to be a monk or an artist. You can begin right where you are, in the middle of ordinary moments. The first simple practice is to notice the friction in your own mind and observe it, gently and without judgment. When you notice that familiar tightening of anxiety, a sudden surge of irritation, or the quiet sting of disappointment, try not to fall immediately into the story around it. Instead, pause. Take one slow, conscious breath and step back for a moment. Observe the feeling as if you were calmly watching a change in the weather. Gently name what you notice. You might say to yourself, "This is frustration," or "This is the feeling of wanting things to be different." This simple act of noticing and naming creates a small space of awareness. Within that space, something important happens. You are no longer inside the emotion. You are the one aware of it. This shift is the first taste of freedom. From here, let curiosity arise. Ask yourself what the mind is reaching for in this moment. What does it want to change? If you are stuck in traffic, the craving may be for the road to clear, for life to follow your plan. If a friend's words have hurt you, the craving may be for the past to be different, for those words to be taken back. See if you can notice this desire without blaming yourself. Look at it with the same kindness you might offer a child who wishes the rain would stop so the sun could come out. This understanding naturally softens the heart. You do not need to battle the craving. You only need to recognize it for what it is, a natural but unhelpful habit of the mind. Finally, bring your attention to the body. Notice where you are holding tension. Our resistance often shows up as tightness in the shoulders, the jaw, or the belly. Begin to soften there, allowing the body to release as the mind learns to let go. When you sense that inner friction, gently bring your attention to the body. Notice if your jaw is clenched, if your shoulders are drawn upward, or if your stomach feels tight. With care, invite these areas to soften. We cannot think our way out of resistance, but we can meet it through the breath. As you breathe out, imagine the tension easing and loosening on its own. This is not about pushing the body to relax. It is about allowing, a quiet permission to let go. Each time you practice this in small, ordinary moments, you are slowly training the mind. You are showing it that it is safe to feel everything life brings, that peace does not require fighting what is here. In this way, you learn to be the loom, open and steady, allowing every thread of experience to be woven in. Light and dark, ease and difficulty, all becoming part of a living, changing tapestry. Let us pause here together. Notice the natural rhythm of your breath as it moves in and out. Let it be a gentle anchor in the flow of time. Allow your body to soften, releasing any tension you may still be holding. Let the sharp edges of the day slowly fade into this quiet moment of rest. If this sense of stillness speaks to you, you are welcome to return and continue this journey with us, exploring again and again the peace that is always close at hand. Now, we move forward to a teaching that is both simple and deeply transformative. It is the truth of impermanence, known as Anicca. All things are constantly changing. Nothing remains fixed. Not the mountains or the stars, not our bodies, and not our thoughts. Everything that comes into being will, in time, pass away. We often meet this truth with fear. Change feels unsettling. We worry about loss, grieve what is slipping away, and try to hold on to happy moments as if they could stay fixed and unchanged. But the Buddha taught that our pain does not come from change itself. It comes from resisting it. Impermanence is not meant to be a sad idea. It is an opening to freedom. When we stop struggling against the natural movement of life and begin to accept its constant motion, something shifts. We find a joy that is steady, far and stronger than short-lived pleasure. A joy that does not depend on things staying the same. To understand this more clearly, there is another old story. In a quiet valley between two great mountains lived a master potter named Isara. Her work was known far and wide for its graceful beauty and nearly perfect form. Her bowls were shaped with such care that they seemed almost alive. People travelled long distances to own one, believing its beauty and balance would bring calm and harmony into their homes. One day, a young apprentice named Kyle came to learn from her. Kyle had talent, but he lacked patience. He was determined to create a perfect pot, one without a single flaw, something that would never crack, fade, or fail. He believed true mastery meant perfection that could last forever. He would spend long hours at the wheel, his face tight with focus. Yet each time, just as he thought he had succeeded, he noticed something wrong. A tiny imbalance, a small bubble in the glaze, a sly, giddy shake of his hand frozen into the clay. Filled with frustration, he would break the pot and start again. Soon, the floor of his workshop was covered with broken pieces, the remains of his impossible standards. One afternoon, after another day of disappointment, Kyle stood quietly and watched as Isara worked at her wheel. She worked with an easy joy, her hands moving smoothly with the clay, as if they were part of the same motion. Before long, she shaped a vase that was simple and beautiful. But as she lifted it from the wheel, her hand slipped. A deep, uneven crack ran down one side. Kyle caught his breath, certain she would be upset. Instead, Isara smiled. She picked up a small brush, and rather than throwing the vase away, she carefully painted a thin line of golden lacquer along the crack. What had looked like damage slowly became a shining vein of gold. She then placed the vase on a shelf with many others, each marked with its own golden lines. This was the art of kintsugi, the practice of honoring brokenness instead of hiding it. You are trying to make a pot that denies its own nature, Isara said to Kyle, her voice gentle and kind. Clay comes from the earth. It is fragile. It is meant to change, to crack, and one day to return to dust. To fight this is to fight the clay itself. She continued, a pot's life is a story of change. Its cracks show where it has been, the heat of the kiln, the hands that shaped it, maybe even a fall. These marks are not signs of failure. They are marks of a life lived, she said softly, pointing to the vase with its golden line. This crack has not ruined it. It has made it one of a kind. It tells its story. True beauty, Kyle, is not found in being flawless. It is found in how we hold our flaws with care. Kyle looked down at the pile of broken pieces scattered across his floor, the remains of his search for a perfection that could never exist. He saw now that he had been trying to make something untouched by time, something separate from life itself. Isara was showing him another way, how to see beauty right at the center of fragility. He picked up 2 broken pieces of his own work. For the first time, he did not see failure. He saw possibility. Slowly and carefully, he began to mend them, not to hide the break, but to honor it. The story of Isara and the cracked pot is a powerful reflection of the teaching of impermanence. We are all like Kyle in our own way. We chase a kind of perfection and permanence that life simply does not give. We want our bodies to stay strong and young. We want our relationships to remain smooth and free of conflict. We want happy moments to last without end. When life shows its cracks, through illness, heartbreak, or failure, we often treat them as problems to fix or signs that something has gone wrong. But the wisdom of impermanence teaches us something very different. These cracks are not errors. They are not proof that we have failed. They are part of being alive. They are an unavoidable and meaningful part of the path we walk. The Buddha's teaching on impermanence invites us to see life as it truly is, always moving, always changing. Everything we can experience, our thoughts, our emotions, even the stars above us, is in a constant state of transformation. Trying to hold on to any of it is like trying to keep water in a closed fist. The more tightly we grip, the faster it escapes. The strain we feel in that effort is our suffering. When a strong emotion like sadness or anger arises, it can feel overwhelming, as if it will never end. We say, "I am sad," as though sadness has become who we are. Impermanence helps us see that this is not the truth. Sadness is not a solid thing. It is more like changing weather moving through the wide sky of awareness. It comes, it stays for a while, and it passes. Remembering this allows us to meet pain with less fear. We do not have to push it away or become lost in it. We can let it be present, trusting that, like all things, it will change in its own time. This insight also changes how we relate to joy. Instead of holding on to happy moments with fear, we can learn to enjoy them fully, with a sense of gratitude. We can feel the warmth of the sun on our skin, without worrying about when the clouds will come. This is the heart of non-attachment. It is not cold or distant. It is a warm, open way of living, taking part fully in life without trying to control how it unfolds. We stay engaged in the dance without trying to force the rhythm. This understanding releases us from being trapped by the past or pulled into the future. The past is made of moments that are already gone. The future is made of moments that have not yet arrived. What we truly have is this moment, right here. And this moment is always alive, always changing, always new. Peace grows when we learn to rest in this moving stillness of the present. So how do we bring this understanding of impermanence into everyday life? The practice is not about thinking more or knowing more. It is about feeling and experiencing this truth directly, moment by moment. It begins with the simple and gentle act of paying attention. One helpful practice is to choose something in nature and observe it often. It might be a tree outside your window, the moon in the night sky, or even a small plant on your desk. Take a moment to look at it each day. Notice what has changed. A leaf slowly opening, a flower appearing and later fading, or how the light touches it differently as the day moves on. When this practice is done regularly, it trains the mind to see that change is not something that happens once in a while. It is always happening. It is the natural state of life. Another practice is to turn this same gentle attention inward. Spend a few quiet minutes each day watching your thoughts and feelings. There is nothing to fix and nothing to control. Simply observe. You can imagine yourself sitting beside a river, watching leaves drift past on the water. Some thoughts may feel heavy or uncomfortable. Others may be light and brief. Let them come, stay for a moment, and then pass. As you watch, notice something important. You are not the thoughts themselves. You are the awareness that sees them appear and disappear. You are the awareness that notices them. This simple practice creates a sense of space inside you, a calm center that is not pulled around by every thought or feeling. Even when the mind is busy, this quiet presence remains. You can also practice letting go at the end of your day. Find a comfortable place to sit or lie down. Gently review the day in your mind. Bring up moments one by one. A kind conversation, a moment of stress, something you finished or something left undone. For each one, practice releasing it. You might imagine placing the moment on a leaf and watching it float away down a river. Or you can quietly say to yourself, "This moment is over. I let it go." This is not about forgetting or pushing memories away. It is about loosening your hold on them. It is a way of honoring that the day is complete, so you can meet the present moment with freshness and ease. You can also carry this awareness into your relationships. When you are with someone you care about, try to be fully present. Notice that this moment is special and will never happen in the same way again. This understanding brings a gentle tenderness into your connections, something that is often lost when we assume there will always be more time. When you truly see that everything and everyone is changing, the heart naturally opens. You begin to love more deeply, forgive more easily, and appreciate how precious it is to share this brief journey of life with others. You begin to honor the cracks within yourself and within those you love, seeing them as golden seams that tell the story of a life truly lived. Let us pause here once more. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs, then let it leave with a soft sigh. Allow your body to sink a little deeper into whatever is supporting you. Let go of the day. Let go of the urge to be somewhere else. You are here in this quiet moment, and this is enough. Now we gently turn our attention inward to one of the most subtle and freeing teachings of the Buddha. It is known as Anatta, or not self. At first, this teaching can feel confusing or even unsettling, because it seems to question something very familiar. Most of us move through life with a strong sense of an I at the center of everything. We feel as though there is a solid inner controller, the one who thinks our thoughts, feels our emotions, and makes our choices. This sense of self feels obvious and real, but the Buddha invited us to look more closely. He asked us to gently search for this fixed, separate self, and to see, through direct experience, whether it can actually be found. The teaching of not self is not saying that you do not exist. It is an invitation to discover a lighter, more open way of living, one that is free from the heavy weight of a fixed identity. It points toward a sense of being that is connected, spacious, and quietly joyful. There is an old story from a monastery known for its silent gardens. A monk named Jin lived there, and he was troubled by a harsh inner critic. His mind was filled with constant self-judgment. My meditation is not deep enough. I am not as kind as the other monks. I will never awaken. This feeling of being flawed and inadequate followed him everywhere, like a heavy cloak he could not remove. Jin believed this I was something solid and real, a true self that was failing at its spiritual work. The belief weighed on him day and night. One day, the abbot of the monastery, a wise and quiet teacher, called Jin to his room. The abbot said nothing. Instead, he placed a small, beautifully crafted chariot in Jin's hands, an ornate model made with great care and skill. "Tell me, Jin," the abbot said gently, "what is this?" "It is a chariot, master," Jin replied. "Are you certain?" the abbot asked, a quiet smile in his eyes. He then began to take the model apart. He removed one wheel and held it up. "Is this wheel the chariot?" "No, master," Jin said. The abbot removed the other wheel, then the axle, the frame, and the carved canopy. With each piece he asked the same question, and each time Jin answered the same way. "No, master." Soon all the parts of the chariot lay separated on the floor. "Now," the abbot asked, "where is the chariot?" Jin paused. Slowly, understanding began to rise within him. "The chariot," he said, "is not one single thing. It is a group of parts coming together for a time. It is a name we give to something that is working." The abbot smiled, warm and knowing. "And so it is with the self you worry about," he said softly. "You search for this I that you believe is failing. But look closely. Where is it? This Jin you believe is not good enough," the abbot continued. "Where is he? Is he your body?" He paused. "Your body is always changing, made of parts that come and go. Is that who you are? Is he your thoughts?" he asked. "Thoughts rise and fade like clouds in the sky. Are they you? Is he your feelings?" he went on. "Feelings shift like the weather. Are they you?" He then gestured to the scattered pieces of the chariot on the floor. "What you call the self is just like this," he said. "It is a collection of moving processes. The body, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, awareness. We gather them together, give them a name, and tell a story about them. Then we forget that it is only a story. There is no fixed I sitting in control," the abbot said quietly. "There is only life unfolding, moment by moment." Jin sat in silence, deeply moved. Something heavy began to loosen inside him. If there was no solid self that was failing, then who exactly was failing? The voice of the inner critic suddenly lost its force. It sounded hollow, like commands from a ruler with no land. Jin was not a failure. He was a living process, always changing, and a process cannot fail. It can only continue to unfold. The abbot's lesson to Jin goes straight to the heart of the teaching of not self. We spend much of our lives building and protecting an idea of who we are. We shape it from our memories, our successes, our roles, our relationships, and our beliefs. Over time, this identity can feel solid, like a fortress we must defend. But this fortress is also a prison. It narrows us. It makes us stiff and defensive. It makes us fragile, because any challenge to our identity feels like a threat to our very being. The teaching of not self offers a way out. It unlocks the prison door. It shows us that what we take to be a fixed, unchanging self is, when examined closely, not a solid thing at all. It is a living, shifting process, complex, beautiful, and always in motion. The Buddha described this process through 5 aspects, often called the 5 aggregates. These are the basic elements that make up our experience, not a permanent self, but the ongoing flow of life itself. These are the body, our physical form, sensations, the raw experiences that come through the senses, perceptions, the way the mind labels and interprets those sensations, mental formations, which include our thoughts, emotions, habits, and reactions, and consciousness, the basic knowing of all the others. The Buddha encouraged us to look closely at each of these and to ask 3 simple questions. Is this permanent? Is this truly who I am? Can I fully control it? When we look honestly, the answer is always no. The body grows and changes. Feelings rise and fall. Thoughts appear in endless, unpredictable streams. Nowhere can we find a single stable self. This realization is not meant to leave us empty or hopeless. It is deeply freeing. If there is no fixed identity, then you are not stuck. You are not defined by past mistakes. and you are not trapped by present fears. You are more like a flowing river than a still pond, always moving, always renewing. The anxious person you believe yourself to be is only a passing pattern of thoughts and sensations. The person who failed exists only as a memory. These are not your permanent nature. This understanding also changes how we see others. When we loosen our grip on a fixed idea of ourselves, we naturally stop fixing others in place as well. We no longer reduce people to labels like selfish or unreliable. We begin to recognize that everyone, just like us, is a changing process shaped by many conditions, most of which we cannot see. This understanding becomes the soil from which real compassion grows. When we see that others are not fixed or separate, our hearts soften. We recognize their humanity more clearly, and kindness arises naturally. So how do we begin to experience this truth of not self for ourselves? This teaching is not something to accept on faith. It is meant to be explored directly through our own experience. One clear way to do this is through a practice known as vipassana, or insight meditation. The heart of this practice is learning to observe the five aggregates as they appear and change. Find a comfortable place to sit. For a few minutes, bring your attention to the body. Notice the feeling of the breath. Notice the pressure where your body meets the chair or the floor. Feel areas of warmth or coolness. Simply observe these sensations as changing physical experiences without calling them my body. See them as form and sensation arising within awareness. Then gently shift your attention to the mind. Watch thoughts as they appear. There is no need to follow them or analyze their meaning. Just notice them as events. A thought about the future arises. A memory from the past appears. An image comes and goes. Label them softly, thinking, remembering, planning. See how they arise on their own and fade away. They are not directed by a central controller. They are simply mental movements. Do the same with feelings. When a sense of calm appears, notice it. When restlessness arises, notice that too. You might say, peace is here, or restlessness is here. See each feeling as a passing pattern, like weather moving through the sky, not as something that belongs to a fixed self. The aim of this practice is not to discover something new, but to notice what is missing. When we look closely, we do not find a solid, independent self running the show. We find only experience unfolding. Another helpful practice is to gently question the sense of I itself. Throughout your day, when thoughts arise like, I want this, I am angry, or I need to do that, gently pause. Ask a simple question. Who is this I? Look for it. Can you find it in the body? Is it in the chest, the head, the hands? Can you find it inside your thoughts themselves? This quiet inquiry, repeated again and again, begins to loosen the habit of assuming there is a fixed self in control. You start to see that I is often just a useful word, a label we use to organize experience, not the name of a solid thing. It points to activity, not to an independent entity. Another helpful practice is to notice how deeply connected everything is. When you eat a piece of fruit, pause for a moment and reflect on all that made it possible. The sunlight, the rain, the soil, the farmer who grew it, the many hands that carried it to you. Seen this way, the fruit is not separate at all. It is the result of the whole world working together. Then turn this same understanding toward yourself. Your thoughts and beliefs were shaped by your parents, your culture, and your education. Your language was given to you. Your body is sustained by the food you eat. the water you drink, and the air you breathe. When you see this clearly, the idea of a separate, isolated self begins to fade. You are not a lonely island. You are more like a wave in a vast ocean, inseparable from the water that forms it. This realization naturally leads us to the next teaching. It is called dependent origination. This deep and beautiful insight shows us that nothing exists on its own, not a single thing. Everything arises because of conditions. Every person, every object, every thought, every moment is the meeting point of countless causes coming together. Seeing this does more than change our ideas. It softens the roots of loneliness and separation. It gives rise to a steady compassion, grounded in the understanding that we are all part of the same unfolding life. There is a story told of a monk named Sela, who once went to live alone in a remote mountain cave. He wanted to deepen his meditation and find a peace that belonged only to him, untouched by the noise and complexity of the world. He believed that by withdrawing completely, he could reach a pure and independent awakening. For his daily meal, he relied on a single bowl of rice, which a villager quietly placed at the entrance of his cave each morning. One day, as he sat down to eat, Sela paused and looked closely at the small white grains in his bowl. His teacher's words returned to him. Look deeply at one thing, and you will see the whole universe. Sela decided to try. He rested his full attention on a single grain of rice. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than a tiny white speck. But as his mind grew still, his understanding widened. He began to see the farmer who had planted the seed, working under the burning sun, his back bent and his hands worn from the labor. He saw the dark, fertile soil that had held the seed, and the heavy rains that had nourished it. Rains that had once risen as clouds from a distant ocean. He saw the sun itself, a blazing star far away, whose light made the rice grow. He saw the people who harvested the crop, those who processed it, and those who carried it to the market. He saw the villager who cooked the rice and brought it to the cave as a simple act of kindness. He saw the potter who shaped his plain clay bowl and the fire that hardened it. As he continued to look, the web grew wider. The farmer needed food grown by others. The rain depended on the ocean. The ocean relied on rivers. Nothing stood alone. In that one small bowl of rice, Sela saw the sun, the clouds, the earth, and the effort and care of countless lives, all gathered together in a single moment. It was a universe in miniature. In that moment, Sela's sense of isolation fell apart. His search for a separate, self-contained peace suddenly felt misguided. Even here, alone in a distant cave, he saw clearly that he was not truly alone. He was deeply connected to everything. His food, his body, even his breath were gifts from the very world he thought he had left behind. He bowed to the bowl of rice, not simply as a monk about to eat, but as a human being receiving the universe itself. His heart, once closed around the idea of solitary purity, opened wide with gratitude and a deep feeling of belonging to all life. Sela's awakening in the cave is a direct experience of dependent origination. This teaching is often expressed in a simple way. When this exists, that exists. When this does not exist, that does not exist. When this arises, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases. It means that nothing exists on its own. Nothing stands alone. Everything is a temporary expression of countless causes and conditions coming together. Just like the grain of rice in Sela's bowl, you in this very moment are the meeting point of the entire cosmos. The air you breathe once moved through ancient trees. The water in your body was once part of clouds, rivers, and oceans. Your thoughts and your language have been shaped by generations of parents, teachers, writers, and thinkers you have never met. The belief that we are separate selves is one of the deepest sources of suffering. It creates loneliness, comparison, and fear. We feel like a small, fragile me facing a vast and uncaring world. But dependent origination shows that this boundary is created by the mind. There is no isolated self apart from life. You are an expression of life itself. From this understanding, true compassion naturally arises. When you see how deeply everything is connected, you realize that the well-being of others cannot be separated from your own. Their happiness touches you. Their pain matters to you. In this shared web of life, caring for others is also caring for yourself. When someone acts from anger or greed, you no longer see a bad person at the core. Instead, you see a human being caught in painful conditions, perhaps shaped by fear, confusion, past wounds, or loss. As this understanding deepens, judgment begins to soften. In its place, a quiet wish arises for that person to be free from suffering. This does not mean approving of harmful behavior. It means responding with clarity rather than hatred, with firmness when needed, but without the poison of resentment. You see that causing harm to another is, in a very real way, causing harm to the whole, including yourself. This teaching also reveals how powerful our own actions truly are. Because everything is connected, nothing we do is insignificant. Every thought, every word, every action sends ripples outward. A small act of kindness may seem minor, but its effects can move through the web of life in ways we may never witness. A single moment of mindful presence can shift not only your inner state, but the feeling of the space around you. We are not just passive results of conditions. We are active participants in shaping the world, moment by moment. To let this wisdom of interconnectedness move from the mind into the heart, you can practice what the monk teller discovered, the practice of deep looking. This is not a formal meditation. It is a way of meeting everyday life with fresh attention. Begin with your food. Before your next meal, pause briefly. Look at what is on your plate. Consider its long journey to you, the soil that nourished it, the sun that helped it grow, the rain that fed it, the many hands that planted, harvested, carried, and prepared it. Silently offer gratitude for all these conditions coming together to support your life. Practice regularly. This simple pause changes eating from an automatic habit into a moment of connection, a quiet communion with life itself. You can extend this way of seeing to the objects around you. Look at the chair you are sitting on or the clothes you are wearing. Reflect on the tree that became the wood, the cotton that became the fabric. Think of the people involved, the designers, the workers, the drivers who moved materials from place to place. See how this single object exists only because of a vast network of effort and energy coming together. What once felt ordinary begins to feel quietly miraculous. The most challenging and most meaningful practice is to bring this deep looking to people, especially those you find difficult. When frustration or anger arises towards someone, pause for a moment. Instead of focusing only on what bothers you, gently consider the unseen conditions that may have shaped them. What kind of childhood might they have had? What fears or unmet needs could be influencing their behavior? What pressures are they carrying that you cannot see? This is not about excusing harmful actions. It is about seeing the full human being behind the behavior. This shift opens space for compassion and allows you to respond with wisdom rather than reacting from anger. You can also turn this awareness towards your own experience. Notice how a certain thought creates tension in the body. Notice how poor sleep affects your mood. Notice how a kind word can soften your chest or bring ease to your breath. See how your inner life is also a web of causes and conditions constantly influencing one another. By observing these connections gently and without judgment, you begin to understand how peace is cultivated. You learn how to support the conditions that lead to clarity, kindness, and well-being, both for yourself and for those around you. Let us pause now and feel this truth directly. Notice the air moving into your lungs, a gift from the wide sky. Feel the surface beneath you holding your body, a gift from the ancient earth. You are supported. You belong. You are part of this living web of life. If this feeling of connection brings a sense of calm to your heart, you are welcome to return here and continue this exploration with us. Having seen that we are not separate, but part of an interconnected flow, a natural question arises. How do we live within this flow? How do we move through life with care and clarity? The Buddha's answer is simple and profound. We walk the middle way. The middle way is not about settling for less or living without depth. It is a path of balance and intelligence. It avoids the two extremes that create suffering. On one side is chasing pleasure without limit. On the other is punishing ourselves through harsh discipline. The middle way lives between grasping and pushing away, between being too tight and too loose. It is the art of living with wisdom and grace, finding a steady center in every part of life. This path is reflected in the Buddha's own story. Before his awakening, he lived as Prince Siddhartha, surrounded by comfort and luxury. He had fine clothes, rich food, beautiful surroundings, and was protected from anything unpleasant. He lived at one extreme, seeking happiness through pleasure and indulgence, believing this was the way to lasting peace. Yet even with all of this comfort, he felt an inner emptiness that would not go away. He saw that pleasure-based happiness was fragile. It depended on outer conditions and could not bring lasting peace. So he left the palace and moved to the opposite extreme. He became a wandering ascetic and practiced severe self-denial. He ate almost nothing until his body wasted away. He slept on hard ground and thorns. He held his breath for long periods, believing that by breaking the body he could free the spirit. For 6 years he pushed himself close to death. But awakening did not come. His body grew weak, and his mind became dull and unclear. One day, exhausted and barely alive, he collapsed by a river. As he lay there, he heard a musician on a passing boat teaching a student how to tune a sitar. The teacher said the string must not be too tight, or it will snap. It must not be too loose, or it will not play. The right sound comes from the middle. In that moment, Siddhartha understood. His entire spiritual search had been like tuning that instrument. He had lived the loose string of indulgence and the tight string of self-punishment. Neither had led to freedom. The path to awakening, he saw clearly, must lie between the two. At that time, a village girl named Shunyata noticed his frail condition and offered him a bowl of rice milk. His fellow ascetics were shocked, believing he had abandoned the spiritual path. But Siddhartha accepted the food, not as a failure, but as an act of wisdom. The nourishment restored his strength, settled his body, and brought clarity back to his mind. From this place of balance, he sat beneath the Bodhi tree, neither forcing himself nor giving up. He resolved to remain there until the truth was fully known. It was from this steady, centered awareness that awakening finally arose. The Buddha's experience shows us that peace is not found at the extremes. Indulgence dulls the mind and leaves it restless, always reaching for the next pleasure. Harsh denial tightens the mind, filling it with strain and quiet resentment. It can even become a form of self-rejection, hidden behind the idea of discipline. The middle way is different. It is a path guided by kindness and wisdom, and it applies to every part of life. Consider how we relate to the body. One extreme is neglect, feeding it poorly, ignoring fatigue, and pushing past its limits. The other extreme is obsession, chasing an unreal image of perfection and punishing the body through rigid control or excessive effort. The middle way treats the body with respect. It sees the body as a valuable companion on the path. This means offering it nourishing food, allowing it proper rest, and moving it in ways that feel supportive rather than harsh. It means listening to what the body is communicating and responding with care. The same balance applies to how we use our energy in life. At times, we push ourselves without pause, driven by ambition or fear until we are exhausted. This is the string pulled too tight. At other times, we slip into heaviness and delay, avoiding effort or challenge altogether. This is the string left too loose. The middle way is about right effort, a steady and sustainable use of energy. It is knowing when to apply effort and when to ease off. It is working with care and commitment, without strain, and resting with purpose, without guilt. This balance is not something you fix once and for all. It is something you sense and adjust, moment by moment, like a quiet dance with life. The middle way also shapes our emotional life. We often swing between two extremes. One is suppression, where we push feelings down, numb them, or pretend they are not there. The other is indulgence, where we are swept away by every emotion that arises. The middle path here is mindfulness. It is the ability to be present with our feelings, happiness, sadness, anger, or fear, without rejecting them and without being overwhelmed by them. We acknowledge what is here, we allow it to exist, and we observe it with a calm, open awareness, much like watching clouds move across the sky. This is the art of holding the heart gently, neither clenched nor unguarded. To walk the middle way is to learn the art of living well. It asks for steady awareness and kind adjustment, again and again. A simple way to begin is by practicing inner listening. Before you eat, pause and ask your body, what do I truly need right now? Before you take on another task, ask yourself, do I have the energy for this, or do I need rest? Before you respond in a conversation, ask your heart, what would be the most balanced and kind response? This quiet inner listening becomes your compass, guiding you along the middle way. It shifts you from living by fixed rules to responding with flexible wisdom. Another helpful practice is to become aware of your own habits of going to extremes. Notice whether you tend to be too hard on yourself or too easy. Do you push until you are exhausted, or do you avoid effort altogether? Simply observe these patterns without blaming yourself. Awareness alone begins to bring balance. For example, if you see that you lean toward harsh self-criticism, a tight and demanding mind, you can gently introduce self-compassion. When the inner critic speaks, soften your body and quietly remind yourself, it's okay. I am doing the best I can. If you notice a tendency toward avoidance or procrastination, a loose and drifting mind, you can respond by taking one small step forward. Break the task into something manageable. Gentle movement is often more helpful than forcing yourself all at once. The middle way also applies to your spiritual practice. Some days, meditation may feel calm and pleasant. Other days, the mind may be restless and sitting may feel difficult. The middle path is to keep showing up with kindness. Do not cling to pleasant experiences, and do not give up when things feel hard. Whether you sigh, tea for 5 minutes or an hour, what matters is the steady intention and balanced effort, not the outcome. Keep the image of the sitar string close to you. During the day, pause and ask, am I too tight or too loose right now? This question can relate to your posture, your breath, the way you hold the steering wheel, or how you approach a challenge. Often, you will notice tension. When you do, gently breathe out and soften. Let the grip ease. This ongoing, gentle adjustment is the practice of the middle way. It is how we learn to live in harmony, creating a life that, like well-tuned music, is both steady and alive. Let us pause again and breathe into this feeling of balance. Notice your breath, not forced, not shallow, just natural and steady. Feel your body, not stiff, not collapsed, simply upright and at ease. This is the middle, a quiet place of balance and peace. If learning to find this center feels meaningful to you, you are welcome to return and continue walking this balanced path with us. From this place of balance, we can begin to open the heart. In Buddhism, wisdom and compassion are often compared to the two wings of a bird. One wing alone cannot lift us. Both are needed to fly. Now we turn to the practice of metta, or loving kindness. This is not a soft or sentimental emotion. It is an active and intentional practice of goodwill, a steady warmth that can be cultivated and offered to ourselves, to others, and to all beings. Loving kindness is a powerful medicine for anger, resentment, fear, and harsh self-judgment. It is the practice of caring for the heart so that kindness can grow naturally. There is a story from a small monastery deep in a forest. A monk named Vimal lived there. He was serious in his studies and strict in his meditation practice, but his heart had grown hard. He was quick to criticize the other monks. One was too noisy, another too lazy, another too proud, and no one received harsher judgment than himself. Every small mistake in his practice was met with relentless inner attacks. His mind had become a place of constant struggle, and over time he grew tired and bitter. One day, his teacher, a kind and gentle old master, called him over. Looking at him with care, the teacher said, "Vimal, your mind is like dry, cracked earth. Nothing can grow there. You water it only with the salt of judgment," the teacher continued. "From now on, you will set aside your other studies. This will be your only practice. Each day, take a small, smooth stone. Walk the forest path for 1 hour and repeat these words. May I be happy. May I be at peace." Vimal was stunned. The instruction felt pointless. "How can repeating empty words help me?" he objected. "I need more discipline, not less." "The hardness in your heart is your greatest lack of discipline," the teacher replied gently. "Just do as I ask." Reluctantly, Vimal began. In the first days, he felt foolish. He muttered the phrases with clenched teeth, his mind arguing the whole time. The words felt false. Happy, I am miserable. At peace, my mind is at war. He felt no warmth at all, only irritation. Still, he kept going, bound by his promise. After a week, something subtle began to change. One afternoon, as he walked the path, He saw a small deer standing close to its fawn. The mother moved with such care and tenderness that Vimal felt a faint warmth stir in his chest. That day, when he repeated the words, "May I be happy," they felt slightly less like a lie. He continued the practice. He began to notice small details he had long ignored: sunlight moving through the leaves, the smell of wet earth, the soft sound of water flowing nearby. One day, he saw another monk stumble and drop a bundle of firewood. His first reaction was judgment, clumsy. But then, without effort, another thought appeared. May he be at ease? The thought surprised him. He stepped forward and helped gather the wood. For the first time, he met the monk's eyes and smiled, a real smile. Thou, in his main practice, was still directed toward himself. Something within him was clearly beginning to open. May I be happy? May I be at peace? Over time, the words began to flow more easily. They no longer felt forced. A small sense of calm started to appear, just a trace at first, but real. Vimal began to see something clearly. For years, he had treated himself like an enemy. This practice was the first time he had ever offered himself kindness. Slowly, the hardness in his heart began to soften, like ice breaking apart as spring arrives. One day, the teacher found him sitting quietly by the stream. He was no longer holding the stone. He was simply watching the water move past. Vimal's face was relaxed, his eyes clear and steady. The field is no longer dry, the teacher said gently. Is it? Vimal bowed. His heart was filled with a quiet warmth. No, master, he replied. The rain has finally come. Vimal's story shows the quiet power of loving-kindness practice. It is a kind of training that slowly changes our habits of anger, judgment, and fear. The Buddha taught that just as a farmer prepares the land to grow crops, we can prepare the heart to grow qualities like love, compassion, joy, and balance. Loving-kindness is the foundation. It is the simple wish that a being may be well, without expecting anything in return. It is not limited or conditional. It is open and generous. Importantly, this practice begins with ourselves. This is not selfish. We cannot offer to others what we have never given to ourselves. Many people find it easier to feel kindness for others, while speaking to themselves with constant criticism and blame. Turning loving kindness inward is often the hardest step, and also the most important. It is an act of deep acceptance. It heals the inner wounds that so often spill outward as anger or resentment. When the heart learns to be kind to itself, it naturally learns how to be kind to the world. When we learn to hold ourselves with gentleness, patience for others begins to grow on its own. From this inner foundation, the practice of loving kindness naturally expands outward. After beginning with yourself, bring to mind someone you love or someone who has helped you, a person for whom warmth comes easily. Offer them the same wishes of well-being. Then, gently extend this kindness to a neutral person, someone you pass in daily life but do not know well, such as a shopkeeper or a bus driver. This step widens the circle of the heart beyond those we already care for. The most challenging step comes next. Bring to mind a difficult person, someone with whom there is tension or unresolved pain. This is not about approving of their actions or forcing affection. It is about freeing yourself from the weight of anger. It is about seeing their humanity and wishing that they, too, may be free from the suffering that drives harmful behavior. In time, the practice opens even further, until it includes all beings everywhere, without exception. This boundless intention softens the last sense of separation between us and them, reconnecting us to the whole web of life through a heart of care and goodwill. Loving kindness is not only something we practice in stillness. It becomes a way of living. It shapes how we speak, how we listen, and how we move through the world. To begin, you do not need a forest or a ritual object. You only need a few quiet moments and a willing heart. Sit comfortably where you will not be disturbed. You may close your eyes if that feels supportive. Bring your attention gently to yourself. You might place a hand over your heart as a simple gesture of care. Then, silently and slowly, repeat a few phrases of loving kindness. Traditional phrases include, "May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease." Repeat the words softly, like a gentle inner lullaby. There is no need to create strong emotion. If nothing special seems to happen, that is perfectly fine. You are planting seeds. The sincerity of your intention is what matters most. If your mind drifts, gently bring it back. If feelings of resistance or self-doubt appear, notice them with kindness rather than pushing them away. You can even include them in the practice by quietly saying, "May you also be at peace." Continue offering these wishes to yourself for a few minutes without rushing or forcing anything. When you feel ready, bring to mind a good friend or someone who has shown you kindness. Picture them clearly, sense their presence, then offer the same phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Allow whatever warmth naturally arises to move with the words. There is no need to manufacture feeling. Let it be simple and sincere. This practice does not have to stay on the cushion. You can weave it into daily life. While standing in line, silently wish well for the person ahead of you. When you hear an ambulance pass, offer thoughts of safety and healing. When you encounter difficult news, send wishes of peace to everyone affected. In this way, ordinary moments become expressions of compassion rather than habits of indifference. Be patient with this practice. It is like learning a musical instrument. It requires time and gentle, steady effort. Some days the heart will feel open and warm. Other days, it may feel tight or resistant. That is completely natural. Nothing has gone wrong. Simply continue. Show up each day. Offer the intention again and again. Water the seed of kindness and trust that over time, your inner landscape will soften and bloom. Growing a quiet strength of love, too, can hold both yourself and the world. Water the seed of kindness each day and trust that over time your inner world will begin to soften and bloom. This growing warmth has the power to hold both yourself and the whole world with a steady, unshakable care. As loving kindness slowly fills our being, it begins to dissolve the layers of fear, judgment, and self-doubt that hide our true nature. This brings us to one of the most hopeful teachings in Buddhism, the understanding that our basic awareness is already pure, clear, and bright. The Buddha compared the mind in its natural state to a clear, open sky. Our thoughts, emotions, and memories are like clouds passing through it. Some clouds are light and fleeting. Others are dark and heavy, filled with storm and wind. But no matter how intense the weather becomes, it never harms the sky itself. The sky remains wide, untouched, and at peace. This teaching invites a gentle shift in how we relate to ourselves. We are not being asked to head our thoughts or force calm into existence. We are invited instead to recognize that peace is already here, quietly present beneath the movement of the mind, waiting to be noticed. There is a well-loved story from the East that points to this truth. A poor traveler, exhausted from a long journey, fell asleep by the side of the road. His clothes were worn and thin, patched together from rags that offered little warmth. Hunger sat heavily in his body, and his mind was filled with worry about how he would survive. He saw himself as unlucky and forgotten, moving through a world defined by lack. As he slept, a close friend passed by, a merchant who had become very wealthy. When the merchant saw his old friend lying there in such hardship, his heart filled with compassion. The merchant carried a priceless diamond, a jewel of great beauty and clarity. He wanted to give his friend a new life, one free from suffering. Not wanting to wake him or draw attention, he gently and carefully sewed a diamond deep into the inner lining of the traveller's worn coat. Then, with quiet care, he offered a silent blessing and went on his way. The traveller woke later, stretched his tired body, and felt the same familiar hunger. He had no idea that anything had changed. He continued to live as before, moving from town to town, begging for food and shelter. Years passed this way. Hardship followed him everywhere. He blamed his fate, envied those with wealth, and believed he was one of the most unfortunate people alive. All the while, the diamond travelled with him. It was there through dust and rain, through crowded cities and lonely forests. Its light never faded, but it remained hidden, covered by a thin layer of cloth and forgotten. One day, many years later, the traveller met the same merchant again. The merchant was stunned to see his friend still living in such suffering. "My friend," he exclaimed, his voice filled with shock and deep compassion. "What have you been doing all these years?" the merchant asked gently. "Why are you still living this way? Long ago, I gave you a jewel of great value. It should have been enough to support you for the rest of your life." The traveller looked at him in confusion. "You gave me nothing," he replied quietly, his voice heavy with long-held resignation. The merchant knelt beside him. He took the torn edge of the traveller's coat and carefully cut the old stitches he had sewn years before. From the lining fell the diamond into his open hand. It caught the sunlight and burst into countless points of brilliant light. The traveller stood frozen, unable to speak. All this time, he had been carrying a treasure beyond measure. He had lived as a poor man only because he did not know what he already had. This story is a mirror of our own lives. The Buddha taught that within each of us, woven into the very fabric of our being, is Buddha nature, a nature as pure, bright, and unbreakable as that diamond. This is our natural capacity for wisdom, for deep compassion, and for steady peace. It cannot be damaged by trauma. It cannot be stained by mistakes. It cannot be reduced by confusion. It is always present, whole and complete. Like the traveller, the difficulty is not that we lack this treasure. The difficulty is that we do not recognize it. We mistake ourselves for the worn coat instead of what is hidden within it. We identify with anxious thoughts, painful emotions, and harsh inner stories. We tell ourselves, "I am anxious. I am unworthy. Something is wrong with me." And believing these stories, we live as if we are poor in spirit, unaware of the richness already inside us. The spiritual path, then, is not about becoming someone better or earning something we do not have. It is about realizing what has been here all along. It is the gentle turning inward to notice the clear, knowing awareness that has been present in every moment of our lives. This awareness is the silent witness. It is what knows that a thought is happening without being the thought itself. It is what feels sadness arise and pass without becoming the sadness. It is the steady presence that holds every changing experience, calm even as life moves. Recognizing this is deeply healing. It is the deepest form of self-acceptance. It means you are not broken. You do not need to fix yourself. You are not a problem waiting to be solved. You are a treasure already complete, waiting to be discovered. The work is not about becoming someone new. It is about gently clearing away what has been covering what is already here. The layers of habit, fear, and mistaken identity that have hidden the natural brightness of your heart. This view of humanity is deeply hopeful. It tells us that what clouds our mind, greed, anger, and confusion, are not who we truly are. They are like clouds passing through the sky. They come and go. They do not belong to the sky itself. Our true nature is open, clear, and spacious. To recognize this is to move from a life of constant effort into a life of quiet presence, from non-stop doing into simple being. This practice asks for less struggle and more trust. It is the gentle art of noticing the sky behind the clouds. One simple way to explore this is to pay attention to the spaces between things. Sit quietly and bring awareness to your breathing. But instead of focusing only on the in-breath and the out-breath, notice the small pause at the end of the exhale, just before the next breath begins. In that brief gap, there is a moment of stillness. No thought, no effort, just clear, awake presence. Try resting your attention there, even for a second. That pause is a doorway, a small glimpse into the quiet nature of your own mind. You can also practice by listening to silence. Sit in a quiet place and simply listen. At first, you will notice sounds. A car in the distance, the hum of an appliance, a bird calling. These are the obvious sounds. But can you listen beneath them? Can you sense the wide silence that holds all of them? That silence is not empty. It is alive and spacious. It is the background that allows every sound to appear. Your awareness is like that silence. It holds all the noise of thoughts and emotions without being shaken or defined by them. Gently rest as that quiet, listening presence. Another helpful practice is to ask yourself throughout the day, what is aware right now? When you see a tree, hear a sound, or notice a thought, softly turn the attention back toward the knowing itself. What is it that is experiencing this moment? Do not look for an answer in words. The mind may respond, I am aware. When that happens, you can gently ask, and what is aware of that thought? Rather than thinking about it, feel into the experience of awareness directly. It has no color or shape. It cannot be located anywhere. Yet it is clearly here. It is the light through which your entire life is known. As you return to this again and again, you begin to recognize yourself more as this steady presence than as the passing experiences it holds. You can also practice trusting this deeper goodness, especially during difficult moments. When you make a mistake or feel overwhelmed by strong emotion, notice the old habit of self-judgment. Instead of following it, gently remember the diamond in the coat. You might place a hand over your heart and quietly say, beneath this confusion, my nature is clear. Beneath this sadness, my heart is whole. This is not pretending that pain is not there. It is not forcing positive thoughts. It is an act of trust in what is most true about you. It is remembering that no matter how worn the outer layers may feel, the inner jewel remains untouched, bright, and complete. Let us pause here for a moment. Take a moment to feel the quiet presence that is hearing these words, not the ears themselves, but the awareness behind them. This is your home ground. This is where peace comes from. If resting in this quiet space feels like coming home, you are welcome to return here and continue rediscovering this inner treasure with us. To recognize the diamond within the coat, we need a clear and reliable tool. That tool is mindfulness. Although we have touched on it throughout this journey, it is so essential that it deserves deeper attention. Mindfulness, known as sati, is the practice of paying attention to the present moment on purpose and without judgment. It is the simple act of waking up from automatic thinking and arriving fully in your life as it is happening right now, not as you wish it were, and not as you fear it might become. Mindfulness is often practiced together with concentration, known as samadhi. Concentration is the ability to keep the mind steady once attention has been placed. Mindfulness notices what is happening. Concentration stays with it. Together, they work like two wings of a bird, allowing us to rise into the clear open space of awareness. Imagine a skilled archer preparing to shoot an arrow at a distant target. Around her, the crowd is noisy. The wind moves unpredictably. The memory of a past mistake pulls at her attention. Yet she stands calmly, aware of everything, while keeping her focus steady on the target ahead. To succeed, she must gather her whole being into this one moment. Her breath is calm and steady. Her body is relaxed but strong. Her gaze is soft, yet focused. If her mind slips into the past, remembering a missed shot, tension enters her arm and the arrow goes astray. If her mind rushes into the future, toward hopes of success or fears of failure, her focus weakens and her aim falters. Her true power comes from bringing all her scattered energy into a single point of presence. All distractions, all hopes, all fears are gathered and held in balance. In the moment the arrow is released, there is no archer, no target, no past, no future. There is only the movement of the arrow itself. This state of steady, collected awareness is exactly what Buddhist practice trains us to cultivate. Most of the time, our minds are nothing like that archer. Our attention is scattered everywhere. We drive while replaying yesterday's arguments. We eat while planning tomorrow's tasks. We listen to someone we care about while our thoughts drift far away into worry or distraction. We are rarely fully where we are. This scattered state is a kind of inner sleepwalking. We are not truly living our lives. We are living inside our thoughts about life. This is a major source of suffering. It pulls us away from the richness of the present moment and feeds anxiety, as the mind endlessly revisits the past or imagines futures that may never come. Mindfulness is the gentle but steady practice of waking up. It brings attention back from past and future and places it firmly in what is happening right now, in what can be seen, felt, heard, and known in this moment. Mindfulness is the heart of Buddhist meditation. It allows us to see how the mind works with kindness and clarity, instead of being pushed around by every thought and feeling. When mindfulness is present, thoughts lose their power to control us. We begin to see them as passing events, not as facts or commands. Anger arises, and instead of becoming it, we can notice, anger is here. In that moment of noticing, a small but powerful space opens. In that space there is choice. In that space there is freedom. In that open space you gain a choice. You can respond with clarity and care instead of reacting from old habits. This is how we slowly loosen the knots of our most harmful patterns. Mindfulness is also deeply kind. The practice asks us to pay attention without judging what we find. This matters because many of us carry a harsh inner voice. When we sit to meditate, the mind may say, "You're doing this wrong. You can't even focus. You're bad at this." A mindful response is not to argue or believe that voice. It is to notice it. Judging is here. And then, with the same patience, you would offer a frighty, Ned animal. You gently bring your attention back to the breath. Each time you do this, you are practicing real self-compassion. As mindfulness grows, concentration grows alongside it. A mindful mind naturally becomes a steadier mind. Just as the archer gathers her energy into one clear point, the meditator learns to gather attention on a single anchor, most often the breath. As attention steadies, the restless mind begins to settle. It is like a jar of muddy water left undisturbed. At first, everything is cloudy and stirred up, but given time and stillness, the mud slowly sinks. The water becomes clear. In this calm, focused awareness, insight can arise on its own. We begin to see impermanence, not self, and interconnectedness, not as ideas, but as direct experience. We feel them in our bones. This is why mindfulness and concentration are called the path to wisdom. They are not just ways to relax, they are ways of seeing clearly, and through that clear seeing, we learn how to live with greater freedom and care. They are the essential tools for exploring and freeing our own minds. The basic practice for developing mindfulness and concentration is mindfulness of breathing, often called anapanasati. You can do this anywhere, but especially at first, it helps to choose a quiet place where you can sit undisturbed for a few minutes. Find a posture that feels both dignified and comfortable. You might sit on a cushion on the floor or upright in a chair with your feet resting on the ground. What matters most is an upright spine, which supports alertness, and a relaxed body, which supports calm. You can gently close your eyes or keep them softly open, letting your gaze fall downward. Begin by taking 3 slow, deep breaths. With each exhale, intentionally release any obvious tension in the body or mind. Then allow the breath to return to its natural rhythm. There is nothing to control. Let the body breathe on its own. Now choose a place to rest your attention. Many people use the tip of the nostrils, feeling the coolness of the in-breath and the warmth of the out-breath. Others prefer the abdomen, noticing the gentle rise as you breathe in, and the gentle fall as you breathe out. Choose one spot and stay with it. Feel the direct physical sensations of breathing, moment by moment. Your mind will wander. It will move into planning, remembering, worrying, or daydreaming. This is not a problem. It is not a failure. It is simply how an untrained mind behaves. The instant you realize your mind has wandered is actually a moment of success. That noticing is mindfulness. Without judging yourself, gently acknowledge where the mind went, thinking or worrying, and then, like a caring parent guiding a child, bring your attention back to the breath. This simple movement of noticing and returning is the heart of the practice. Each time you do it, you strengthen both mindfulness and concentration. That is the whole training. Simple, but not always easy. What matters most is your attitude. Let it be patient, gentle, and kind toward yourself. Mindfulness does not end when you stand up from meditation. You can bring it into everyday life. This is informal practice. When you wash dishes, just wash the dishes. Feel the warmth of the water. See the shine of the soap bubbles. When you walk from your car to your workplace, notice your steps. Feel your feet touch the ground. Sense your body moving through space. When you are with someone you care about, offer them your full attention. Listen not only to their words, but to the feelings beneath them. Let go of preparing your response and simply be present. These moments are not secondary to meditation. They are how presence becomes woven into daily life, turning ordinary moments into something quietly sacred. Let us pause now. Bring your attention to your breath as it is right now. Feel one full inhale. Feel one full exhale. You are here. You are present. This moment is enough. If returning to presence in this simple way feels meaningful to you, you are welcome to return and continue practicing this gentle art of waking up with us. As mindfulness deepens, we begin to notice our habits of holding on with greater clarity. We see how we cling to ideas, expectations, identities, pleasures, and sometimes even to our own pain. This brings us to a turning point on the path to peace, the wisdom of letting go. In Buddhism, this is often linked to the idea of renunciation, or more clearly, non-attachment. This does not mean rejecting life, joy, or relationships. It does not ask us to live without warmth or engagement. Instead, it points to a quiet inner shift, the release of our tight mental and emotional grip on things. Letting go means allowing life to move without our constant need to control, manage, and secure it. It is the discovery that freedom does not come from having more, but from needing less. There is an old parable that illustrates this clearly. A man was traveling through a dangerous wilderness when he reached a wide and fast-moving river. The water was deep, the current strong. There was no bridge or boat. Staying where he was meant danger, as wild animals roamed the land. So he gathered logs, branches, and vines. With great effort, he built a simple raft. Using the raft, he crossed the river safely and reached the far shore. He felt deep relief and gratitude. The raft had saved his life. Standing in this new place of safety, he looked back at it floating near the bank and thought, "This raft was incredibly useful. I worked hard to build it. It would be a waste to leave it behind. I might need it again." So he lifted the heavy, water-soaked raft onto his back and continued his journey. The land beyond the river was beautiful. Open fields, rolling hills, wide skies. But the man could hardly enjoy it. The raft weighed him down. It caught on trees. It made climbing difficult. The very thing that once helped him cross to safety had become a burden, a prison he carried by choice. The Buddha used this story to ask a simple question. What would a wise person do? A wise person, he said, would understand the purpose of the raft. They would feel gratitude for it, honor its value, and then leave it behind at the riverbank. They would continue on, light and free. The raft, the Buddha explained, is like the teachings, the practices, and even our most meaningful insights. They are tools meant to carry us from suffering toward freedom, but they are not meant to be clung to. Even wisdom can become a burden if we turn it into a rigid identity. This applies to everything in our lives. We build many rafts, our careers, our achievements, our relationships, our beliefs, our spiritual practices. These things can support us for a time, but when we cling to them, when we make them who we are, they stop serving us and begin to weigh us down. Letting go naturally follows from understanding impermanence and not self. If everything is changing, what can we truly hold on to? And if there is no fixed self, who is doing the holding? Attachment is the attempt to build something permanent in a world that is always moving. It creates tension and disappointment. We cling to outcomes, believing our happiness depends on things going a certain way. We cling to people, holding them with control and expectation, rather than open care. We cling to opinions, turning them into walls that divide us from others. We even cling to our suffering. Pain can become so familiar that it defines us. Letting go of that story can feel frightening, as if we would lose ourselves without it. Letting go is the gentle, repeated practice of loosening the clenched fist of the mind. It is not indifference. It is not pretending not to care. It arises from deep love and deep trust. Trust that life does not need to be tightly held to be lived fully. You can love more openly when you are not attached to someone being a certain way in order for you to feel okay. You can do your work with more creativity and ease when you are not gripping a specific result. When you hold your beliefs more lightly, you can truly lie. Stay into others instead of defending your position. Non-attachment does not mean not caring. It means caring so deeply that you are willing to release the demands of your ego and allow people and life to be as they are. It is an expression of trust in the unfolding of things. This is especially important on the spiritual path. Sometimes we become attached to a certain meditation method, a teacher, or a pleasant state of calm or bliss. We may have one good meditation and then spend weeks trying to recreate it. That effort usually brings tension and disappointment. The raft story reminds us to hold all practices lightly. They are tools, not possessions. Use them wisely, but do not turn them into another identity. The goal is not to be a good meditator. The goal is freedom. So how do we practice letting go in daily life? It starts by noticing what clinging feels like. Attachment has a clear signal in the body and mind. It feels tight, contracted, like holding your breath or gripping something too hard. When you notice this tightening, that is your moment to practice. One simple and powerful method is a releasing visualization. When you notice yourself clinging to a worry, a resentment, or an expectation, pause. If possible, close your eyes for a moment. Imagine placing that thought or feeling in the palm of your hand. Look at it with kindness. Do not judge it. Just acknowledge that it is there. Then imagine gently opening your hand and letting the wind carry it away. Or picture placing it on a leaf and watching it float down a stream until it disappears from view. You may need to do this many times. That is normal. Each time you repeat it, you are teaching the mind what release feels like. Writing can also help with deeper attachments. Take some time to list the things you notice you are holding on to. These might be large, like a career goal or a relationship, or small, like needing everything in your home to be just right. For each item, ask yourself a simple question. What am I afraid would happen if I let this go? Often beneath attachment is fear, fear of loss, failure, rejection, or not being enough. Seeing this clearly, with honesty and care, already begins to loosen the grip. What do you fear would happen if you truly let this go? When you look at that fear clearly and honestly, it often begins to lose its grip. From there, you can gently imagine what freedom might feel like on the other side of that attachment. This kind of reflection brings kind awareness to habits of holding on that usually operate beneath the surface. One of the simplest and most constant ways to practice letting go is through the breath. The breath is a living lesson in release. Each breath comes in, and then it must go out to make space for the next one. You cannot hold on to an exhale. When you notice yourself feeling tight, stressed, or grasping, bring your attention to the out-breath. As you breathe out, consciously let go. You can silently say release or let go with each exhalation. Let every out-breath be a small act of surrender, a soft trust in this moment as it is. Practiced again and again throughout the day, this gentle releasing helps you set down the heavy raft. Little by little, you learn how to walk more freely, more lightly, and more peacefully on the other shore. Letting go naturally follows from seeing impermanence and not self. If everything is always changing, what can truly be held? If there is no fixed separate self, who is it that is gripping so tightly? Attachment is the attempt to build something permanent in a world that is always moving. It leads to strain and disappointment. Letting go is the practice of loosening the clenched fist of the mind again and again with care. It is a deep trust in the unfolding of life. Let us pause here one final time. Take a slow, full breath in and feel the stillness of this moment. As you breathe out, release all effort. Simply rest, If this path has felt like a refuge, you are welcome to return here whenever you need quiet and clarity. Now, as we come to the final teaching of our journey, we arrive at what is often considered the deepest insight in Buddhism, the wisdom of emptiness, known as Shunyata. The word emptiness can sound unsettling, as if it suggests that nothing exists or nothing matters, but that is not what it means. Emptiness does not mean non-existence. It means empty of a separate, independent essence. It is the fullest expression of interconnectedness. Everything is what it is only because of everything else. This insight gently dissolves our deepest fears and attachments, revealing a world that is alive, meaningful, and free. There is a story of a young monk named Anatta who struggled with this teaching. When he heard talks on emptiness, his mind resisted. He would hold up his hand and think, "How can this be empty? I can see it. I can feel it. It is solid." To him, the world felt made of separate, lasting things. Emptiness seemed to deny his experience. His teacher, an elderly nun named Prajna, noticed his struggle. One day she handed him a simple clay cup. "Tell me about this cup," she said. Anatta described it carefully. "It is made of clay. It is solid. It has a shape. It holds water." Prajna smiled. "But where is the cup itself?" she asked. "Let us look closely. Is the clay the cup?" "No, the clay once lay in the earth." "Is the water the cup?" "No, that can be poured out." "Is the shape the cup?" "The shape came from the potter's hands and mind." She guided him deeper. "This cup," she said, "is made entirely of things that are not the cup. It depends on clay, on earth and water. It depends on rain, clouds, and sun. It depends on the potter, who depended on food, which depended on soil, light, and countless beings. The cup was real, but it did not exist on its own, and neither do we. This cup contains the whole universe," she said. "It is empty of being only a cup, separate from everything else. Its existence is a miracle of interred dependence." Anatta looked at the cup in a new way. Until now, he had seen a solid object. His teacher was showing him something different, a living process, a web of relationships. Then Prajna pointed toward a large wave rising in the nearby sea. "Look at that wave," she said. "It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has shape, force, and movement. It is clearly a wave. But can you find anything in that wave that is not the ocean?" She paused and continued. "The wave is empty of a separate self. It is nothing more and nothing less than the ocean expressing itself. It arises from the ocean and it returns to the ocean, because it was never separate to begin with. It is empty of being independent, and because of that, it is full of the entire sea." In that moment, understanding dawned in Anatta's heart. He looked down at his own hand again. This time, he did not see a solid, isolated thing. He saw a temporary expression of the universe itself. He saw his parents and ancestors. He saw sunlight, air, water, and all the food that had ever nourished his body. His hand was empty of being just his hand, and because of that, it was full of all of life. The fear he once felt around the word emptiness dissolved. In its place arose a deep sense of connection and wonder. The wisdom of emptiness, or Shunyata, is the deepest medicine for our belief in separateness. We move through life imagining a solid me, surrounded by solid others and solid things. From this belief comes clinging, the urge to possess, and aversion, the urge to push away. Emptiness reveals that these sharp boundaries are creations of the mind. In truth, everything arises together in one seamless field of life. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form, says the Heart Sutra. This means that the shape of the wave cannot be separated from its emptiness of being separate from the ocean. The cup's form depends entirely on its lack of an independent existence. These are not two different realities. They are two ways of seeing, the same truth. When this understanding settles in, our relationship with life changes. We stop gripping so tightly because we see there is nothing solid to hold. When a painful emotion arises, instead of seeing it as a solid, overwhelming thing happening to me, we can recognize it as a temporary wave of energy born from many conditions, empty of a fixed core. Seeing this emptiness allows us to stay present with our experience without being consumed by it. When a moment of deep joy appears, we no longer need to grab onto it in fear of losing it. We can enjoy it fully, knowing it is a passing wave, a gift arising from countless conditions. We can love it without trying to own it. This understanding is not cold or distant. It is alive and freeing. Seeing emptiness is not just an idea. It is a felt release. When we truly understand that nothing exists as a separate, fixed thing, fear begins to loosen. What is there to lose if nothing was ever a possession to begin with? What solid self is there to protect? From this understanding, we meet life with openness. We participate fully, but without clutching. We stop being a frightened ego guarding a small territory and become the open space in which life moves. To begin touching this wisdom, we can gently explore our experience. This does not require complicated philosophy. It is a simple shift in how we look. Take an object near you right now, a lamp, a book, a table. Look at it closely. Then begin to see what it is made of. If it is a wooden table, see the tree it came from. See the forest. See the sunlight that helped the tree grow, the rain that fed it, the soil that held it. See the people who cut the tree, shaped the wood, built the table. See the tools they used, and the hands that made those tools. Slowly, it becomes clear that what seemed like a solid object is actually a meeting place for the whole world. The table is real, but it is empty of being a separate thing. You can do the same with your own body. See that it is made of non-body elements: food, water, air, the care of others, the genetics of your parents and ancestors. Your body is not a possession. It is a temporary expression of the universe. This does not make it less valuable. It makes it more precious. You can also explore emotions this way. When a strong feeling like anger arises, instead of saying, "This is me," look more closely. Where is it felt? In the chest, the jaw, the stomach? Is it one solid thing, or many changing sensations? Heat, tightness, movement. Notice the thoughts that keep it alive. See that anger is not a single object. It is a process arising from many causes. When you see this clearly, its grip softens. It no longer controls you. At the deepest level, the practice of emptiness is very simple. It is resting in open awareness without adding labels or stories. When thoughts quiet and judgments drop away, what remains is a clear living presence. In this openness, you do not think about emptiness. You experience reality directly, moment by moment, as a seamless, luminous flow. Seeing reality as deeply interconnected, where every action has an effect, brings us to an essential teaching: karma. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas in Buddhism. Karma is not about reward or punishment given by some outside force. It is simply the natural law of cause and effect. The word karma means action. But the Buddha emphasized that what truly matters is intention. The motivation behind what we do is what plants the seed. Our thoughts, words, and actions shape our experience because of the intention that drives them. This teaching is deeply empowering. It tells us that we are not helpless victims of fate. In every moment, we are shaping our future by the intentions we choose right now. There is a simple story that illustrates this. Two brothers, both farmers, lived next to each other. They worked hard and depended on their rice fields for survival. One year, just before harvest, a violent storm swept through the valley and destroyed both of their crops. An entire year of effort was gone. The external event was exactly the same for both men. The first brother was overwhelmed by despair, his mind filled with anger and blame. "This is unfair," he shouted. "Why does this always happen to me?" He became bitter and resentful. He snapped at his family. He pushed away his neighbors, seeing them with suspicion and jealousy. His intentions were rooted in anger and self-pity. Without realizing it, he was planting seeds of isolation, conflict, and ongoing suffering. The second brother also felt sadness. He did not deny the loss, but after allowing himself to grieve, his intention changed. He thought, "This has happened. I cannot undo it. What can I do now?" His response came from acceptance and clarity. He gathered his family and said, "We lost our crop, but we still have each other." He went to his neighbors and said, "We are all affected by this storm. Let us work together and prepare for the next season." His intentions were rooted in compassion and cooperation. He planted seeds of connection, strength, and future well-being. The storm was the same. The karma was not. One brother created a world of bitterness. The other created a community of support. Karma is not fatalistic. It is the opposite. It shows us that the quality of our life grows from the state of our own heart and mind. The Buddha taught that intentions rooted in greed, anger, and confusion lead to suffering. When we act from craving, we create dissatisfaction. When we act from anger, we create conflict. When we act without clarity, we create regret. When our intentions come from generosity, kindness, and wisdom, the results are different. Generosity creates connection. Kindness creates safety and harmony. Wisdom leads to choices that bring freedom. This is not a belief you need to accept. You can observe it directly in your own life every single day. Notice how different it feels after speaking in anger compared to offering a sincere word of kindness. The effect is immediate. One leaves tension and regret. The other leaves warmth and ease. This is karma made visible in everyday life. One of the most hopeful aspects of this teaching is that it is never too late. The present moment has been shaped by past actions, but what you do now is shaping what comes next. You are not trapped by who you were yesterday. In this very moment, you can plant a new seed. You can choose a kinder thought. You can choose a small act of generosity. You can choose patience instead of reacting. Each choice carries weight. Each one changes the direction of your life. Karma invites us to step out of helplessness and become conscious, caring participants in our own experience. To work wisely with karma, we begin by bringing mindfulness to intention. One simple practice is to start the day by setting an intention. Before getting out of bed, or while holding your first cup of tea, pause and choose a gentle, direct ion for the day. It might be, "Today I will practice patience," or "Today I will listen with openness," or "Today I will be kind to myself." This intention acts like a rudder. It does not control everything, but it gently steers the mind towards skillful action. During the day, practice small pauses. Before speaking, before sending a message, before reacting to something difficult, take one conscious breath. In that breath, check in. Ask yourself, is this coming from kindness and clarity, or from fear, anger, or habit? That brief pause can be the difference between creating harmony or creating more pain. At the end of the day, you can reflect gently. This is not about judging or blaming yourself. It is a kind review. Ask, what intentions guided me today? When did I act with care? When did I lose awareness? The purpose is understanding, not guilt. Awareness today becomes wisdom tomorrow. Finally, practice generosity, known as dana. This does not require money. Generosity can be you, our time, your attention, your patience, your willingness to help, or even a warm smile. Every act of giving loosens the grip of self-centeredness and plants seeds of connection and joy. You can be generous in many ways, with your time, with your attention, with patient listening, with a smile or a word of encouragement. Every act of giving, no matter how small, when it comes from a sincere wish for another's well-being, creates wholesome karma. It loosens the grip of the self-centered mind and reconnects us with the quiet joy of our shared humanity. When we become mindful of our intentions, life stops feeling like a chain of random events. It becomes a conscious, meaningful path of awakening. So where does this path lead? What is the far shore the raft was meant to reach? In Buddhism, the fulfillment of the path is called Nirvana. This word is often misunderstood. Nirvana is not a heavenly place we go to after death. It is a way of being that is available here and now, in this very life. The word means to blow out or extinguish. What is extinguished are the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. When these fires go out, suffering and its causes come to an end. Nirvana is the mind's final freedom, a deep, steady peace that comes from seeing reality exactly as it is. Imagine carrying a huge, heavy boulder on your back your entire life. You have carried it for so long that you believe the pain in your shoulders and the strain in your legs are just how life is. The weight shapes how you move, how far you can go, and how you see the world. Every step is effort. Then one day, through practice and insight, you realize you can put the boulder down. You bend forward and let it fall away. It lands on the ground with a dull thud. What do you feel in that moment? Lightness, relief, ease, a freedom you did not know was possible. The air feels different. The world looks brighter. You can stand tall. You can move freely. You can run. You can dance. That release, that unburdening is a simple way to understand Nirvana. It is not escaping life. It is finally living without the crushing weight of mental suffering. Nirvana is the natural result of deeply seeing the truths we have been exploring. When impermanence is fully understood, clinging to fleeting pleasures fades away. When not-self is clearly seen, the ego's constant struggle to protect and promote itself falls quiet. When suffering and its causes are truly known, craving loses its power. What remains is freedom. The ending of these inner fires is Nirvana. It is not a dull or empty state. It is not numbness or disappearance. The teachings describe it as the highest happiness, but not a happiness that depends on things going well. It is the steady, clear peace of a mind that is no longer fighting itself or reality. A person who has realized Nirvana still lives in the world. They still feel pleasure and pain. They feel warmth and cold. They may stub a toe and feel the sting. But what is gone is the extra layer of suffering, the judgment, the resistance, the stories that say, this should not be happening. The second arrow no longer lands. They meet life with a wide, open calm. Like a deep ocean, waves may move on the surface, but the depths remain still. From this stillness, compassion flows naturally. When one's own suffering has ended, the heart opens toward all beings who are still caught in struggle. Nirvana cannot be forced. You cannot reach it through sheer effort or willpower, just as you cannot make a flower bloom by pulling on it. It unfolds naturally when the causes are present. The path itself creates the conditions, so the practice is simple, though not always easy. Trust the process. Keep using the raft wisely. Continue to practice mindfulness, returning to the present moment again and again. Continue to practice compassion, offering kindness to yourself and to others. Continue to investigate your experience, seeing impermanence and not self clearly. Continue to let go, loosen your grip on what creates tension and pain. Each mindful breath matters. Each kind intention matters. Each moment of clear seeing matters. There is no final trick, no shortcut. The path itself is the goal. Trust that by caring for your heart and mind with patience and gentleness, you are already walking toward freedom. And rest in this possibility. Know that a peace beyond struggle is not a fantasy. It is a real potential within your own mind. Let that knowledge steady you. Let it encourage you. And let it quietly guide your steps forward. You are not simply trying to feel a little calmer or cope a bit better. You are walking a path that points toward the complete end of suffering. To close our journey, let us turn to a few timeless Zen stories. There was once a young man named Yamaoka Teshu, a gifted and intelligent student of Zen. He had spent many years studying Buddhist philosophy and believed he had developed a deep understanding of its most advanced teachings. He was especially drawn to ideas like emptiness and non-duality, concepts at the heart of Zen, and he felt confident that his grasp of them showed real spiritual maturity. Hearing of a well-known Zen master named Doan, famous for his wisdom, Yamaoka decided to visit him. He hoped to present his understanding, perhaps to receive recognition, or at least to engage in refined philosophical discussion. He arrived with the confidence of someone who had mastered complex ideas and expected to speak on lofty spiritual truths. When Yamaoka was finally brought before Master Doan, he found him sitting quietly in a simple room, calmly smoking a bamboo pipe. The space was plain and unadorned. The mood was relaxed and ordinary. Still, Yamaoka was eager to begin. With confidence, he spoke. "I have come to share my understanding of the Buddha's deepest teachings," he said. He then launched into what he believed was a clear and powerful explanation of advanced Buddhist insight. The mind, the Buddha, and all sentient beings do not truly exist in any ultimate sense, he said. When examined closely, everything is empty of inherent nature. All phenomena are empty. There is no solid, independent reality anywhere. Growing more assured as he spoke, Yamaoka continued, "There is no enlightenment to attain, because there is no one to attain it. There is nothing to realize, and no delusion to overcome, because delusion itself is empty." He paused, clearly pleased with the depth and precision of his words. He went on, confident and precise. "There is no sage and no ordinary person," he said, "because these distinctions are only ideas created by the mind. In truth, they have no real existence." And finally, with clear satisfaction, he concluded that there is no one who teaches and nothing to be received, no teacher, no student. All such divisions are illusions born from conceptual thinking that fails to see emptiness. Throughout this long explanation, Master Doan said nothing. He continued to sit quietly, smoking his bamboo pipe. His face showed no approval and no disapproval. He did not interrupt. He did not argue. He simply listened. When Yamaoka finished and paused, clearly expecting recognition or a thoughtful response, the master remained silent for a few more moments. Then, without warning, he lifted his pipe and struck Yamaoka sharply on the head. The pain was sudden and intense. Yamaoka leapt to his feet. His face burned with anger and shock. All of his calm certainty vanished in an instant, replaced by raw human emotion. "Why did you hit me?" he shouted. "What kind of teaching is this? How dare you strike someone who came here respectfully to discuss the Dharma?" Master Doan looked up at him, a faint smile resting on his face. "If nothing exists," he said quietly, "where did this anger come from?" Yamaoka froze. He had no answer. In that moment, his entire structure of ideas collapsed. His refined language about emptiness and non-existence could not meet the reality of pain, anger, and reaction arising in his own mind. His understanding lived only in words. When real experience arrived, it was nowhere to be found. The Buddha once said, "Do not believe something just because you have heard it. Do not believe it because many people repeat it. But when, through your own observation and understanding, you see that it is reasonable and brings benefit to yourself and others, then accept it and live by it." This teaching points to an important difference. There is a wide gap between understanding spiritual ideas with the mind and realizing them in a way that truly changes how we live. The story of Yamaoka shows this clearly. He could explain deep Buddhist teachings with great skill. His words were accurate and impressive, but his understanding lived only in thought, not in experience. When something unexpected and painful happened, his ideas could not support him. In that moment, they offered no calm, no clarity, and no freedom. This pattern is very common on the spiritual path. We can collect teachings without being transformed by them. We can study non-attachment while staying attached to our image as a spiritual person. We can talk about the ego being an illusion while reacting strongly whenever our pride is touched. We can learn the language of awakening while repeating the same habits of anger, fear, and defensiveness. Master Doan did not argue with Yamaoka's ideas. He did not debate philosophy. Instead, he created a direct experience. The strike of the pipe was not cruelty. It was a sharp, compassionate mirror. It revealed the distance between what Yamaoka knew in theory and what he could actually live. Why do we so often confuse understanding with realization? Because the thinking mind is very convincing. It can build complex explanations that make us feel advanced and secure. When we can speak clearly about spiritual ideas, it feels like progress. But when life challenges us, when pain, loss, or anger appears, those ideas are tested. As Yamaoka discovered, real wisdom is not shown by what we can explain. It is shown by how we respond when things do not go our way. The anger that rose up when Yamaoka was struck revealed the gap between his ideas and his lived reality. If he had truly realized the emptiness he spoke about, pain and surprise would not have triggered such a strong reaction. His anger showed that, beneath his refined language, a solid and reactive sense of self was still very much alive. This story invites us to look honestly at our own lives. Are there places where what we understand in theory is far ahead of what we can actually live? You may understand mindfulness, yet still get swept away by anxiety when stress appears. You may value compassion, yet feel sharp judgment toward people who irritate you. This gap is not limited to spiritual practice. It appears everywhere. We may understand what healthy communication looks like, yet fall into old habits during conflict. We may know a great deal about caring for the body, yet continue behaviors that do not support our well-being. Knowing and embodying are very different things. The pipe in this story represents life itself. Any moment that tests us, a criticism that sparks defensiveness, a loss that exposes hidden attachment, a disagreement that reveals how far our reactions are from our ideals. These moments show us where understanding has not yet become wisdom. Zen places such strong emphasis on direct experience because ideas alone cannot change us. We can read endlessly about meditation, but sitting quietly with a restless mind for 20 minutes often teaches us far more than pages of theory ever could. Master Doan's simple question, "Where did this anger come from?" went straight to the heart of the matter. If there is truly no fixed self to defend, where does anger find its footing? The fact that it appeared so quickly showed that Yamaoka's insight had not yet reached the level of lived truth. The Buddha once said that no matter how many sacred words we read or speak, they are of little use if we do not live them. Yamaoka had learned many words about emptiness, but the moment real life touched him, those words fell away. But his reaction showed that the words had not yet reshaped his lived relationship to experience. His understanding had not reached the level where it could meet pain, surprise, and challenge without collapse. What is striking about this encounter is how quickly the truth was revealed. Rather than allowing Yamaoka to continue building elegant theories that might have taken years to unravel, the master's direct action exposed the gap between knowledge and realization in a single moment. No debate was needed. Reality itself delivered the lesson. As you reflect now, you might gently ask yourself the same question. Are there places in your own life where understanding has outpaced embodiment? Where you know what is true, yet still react in old ways when life presses you? When tomorrow brings its unexpected challenges, the sudden words, losses, or disappointments that test our balance, will you respond from clarity or react from habit? The Buddha taught that the mind shapes our world. What we cultivate, we become. And perhaps the deepest wisdom is not learning to think better thoughts, but learning to loosen our grip on thinking itself. True insight does not show itself in how well we can explain emptiness, but in how empty, open, and unshaken we can remain when life strikes without warning. Our next story points to a different kind of moment, one where understanding ripens not through effort, but through release. It is known as no water, no moon. There was a nun named Chiyono who devoted many years to Zen practice. She spent long hours in meditation, working deeply with koans and studying the Buddha's teachings. Her dedication was unquestionable. She rose before dawn each morning, sat through pain and fatigue, and practiced with a seriousness that earned the respect of her teachers. Yet despite her effort, awakening did not come. She understood the teachings clearly. She could speak about emptiness and non-duality with ease. She could even help other students with their practice. But the final shift, the direct knowing that transforms everything, remained just out of reach. Years passed. Frustration quietly grew. She saw others touch insights that eluded her. She questioned herself, pushed harder, and sometimes wondered if something essential was missing in her. Still, she continued. One night, after a long day of practice, Chiyono walked slowly back to her small dwelling. In her hands, she carried an old wooden water pail she had filled at the well earlier that evening. The pail was old, held together by thin strips of bamboo that had weakened over time. It had served her for many years, but she could feel how fragile it had become. As Chiyono walked through the courtyard in the moonlight, something caught her attention. The full moon hung bright in the night sky, bathing the temple in a soft, gentle light. But what held her gaze was the moon reflected in the water she carried. Inside the simple wooden pail was a perfect circle of light, clear and complete. With every step, the reflection moved gently, as if alive. She walked slowly, carefully, watching the reflected moon as though she were carrying something sacred. For a moment, it felt as if she were transporting the moon itself from the well back to her room. Then, without warning, the bamboo strips finally broke. The bottom of the pail fell away, and the water poured out all at once. In the same instant, the reflected moon vanished. With no water, there was no moon. At that exact moment, Chiyono was freed. Years of effort, struggle, and searching fell away in a single flash of understanding. What she had been seeking had never been separate from her. Just like the moon in the water, enlightenment had appeared to be something to hold on to, something to possess, but it was only a reflection of what was always there. This is what the Buddha pointed to when he said, "Look within. You are the Buddha." The story reveals a deep truth. Awakening does not come from collecting more knowledge or striving harder. It comes through release, not through grasping, but through letting go. This points to a paradox at the heart of spiritual life. We usually begin believing that peace or awakening is something we must achieve in the future. We work, practice, and strive, imagining that one day we will finally arrive. Chiyono's years of discipline were not wasted. They prepared her, just as soil must be worked before seeds can grow. But the moment of awakening came only when she stopped trying to hold on to realization. The seeking mind creates the very distance it wants to cross. When we believe peace lies somewhere else or sometime later, we overlook the awareness that is present right now, the awareness that is reading these words. You may notice this in your own life. Chasing calm, trying to grasp insight, working hard to reach a state that always seems just out of reach. Often, the effort itself hides the truth that the awareness doing the seeking is already what is being sought. This does not mean giving up practice or growth. It means holding them lightly, practicing fully without clinging to results, like carrying water, knowing the container may break at any moment. A Zen master once said, "The unborn mind is the Buddha mind." What we seek through meditation, healing, or self-improvement is not something new. It is the recognition of what has never been absent. In the story, the water and the moon represent the full separation between seeker and sought, between ordinary mind and awakened mind. As long as we believe they are separate, we try to protect and preserve spiritual experiences. But when the container breaks, we discover there was never a separation at all. This insight applies far beyond meditation. We chase happiness, success, love, and peace as if they were objects to obtain. The perfect relationship, the ideal job, the calm mind. Often, these are reflections we try to hold, not realizing their essence already lives in our capacity to seek and appreciate them. Zen teaches us to trust unfolding rather than force understanding. Again and again, we learn that the deepest insight often comes when we stop trying so hard to understand. When the bottom finally falls out of our carefully built containers, when our spiritual images and struggles dissolve, we begin to understand what the Buddha meant when he said, "The one who conquers himself is greater than one who defeats 1,000 armies 1,000 times." The victory Chiyono realized was not a triumph over ignorance, but the recognition that the battle itself had been unnecessary. There was never an enemy. There was never anything missing. As you reflect quietly now, you might ask yourself the same gentle question. What would it feel like to stop striving so hard? What if you no longer tried to capture insight, hold on to peace, or secure awakening as something fragile? What if you trusted the natural intelligence that has been guiding you all along? The Buddha reminded us that within you there is a place of stillness, a refuge you can return to at any moment and simply be yourself. Perhaps what you have been searching for has been seeing through your eyes from the very beginning. To close, let us turn to one final story, one that speaks to recognizing our true worth through eyes that can truly see. It is called The Value of a Diamond. One afternoon, a young student was walking along a riverbank when something caught his attention among the smooth stones near the water. He bent down and picked up a stone larger than his fist. It shimmered faintly in the sunlight, its surface marked by sharp, crystalline patterns unlike the other rocks around it. He did not know what it was, but something about it felt different. It did not seem ordinary. Curious, the student brought the stone to his Zen master. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I found this stone by the river. I wonder if it has any value, or if it is just another rock." The master turned the stone slowly in his hands, examining it without revealing anything. After a moment, he looked at the student and said, "Go to the marketplace and see what people think it is worth. But remember this carefully. No matter what anyone offers you, do not sell it. Simply learn what they would give, and then return to me." The student bowed again and set off, unaware that he was carrying something far more precious than he imagined. Following his teacher's guidance, the student first went to the busy marketplace at the center of town. He approached a merchant selling oranges from a bright, overflowing cart. "Excuse me," the student said politely, showing him the stone. "What do you think this might be worth?" The orange seller glanced at it briefly. To him, it was just a pleasant-looking rock. "Well," he said, "it's bigger and nicer than most stones. I'd give you 10 oranges for it. That seems fair." The student thanked him and moved on. Next, he stopped at a vegetable stall filled with fresh produce. "What do you think this stone is worth?" he asked. The woman examined it more closely, noticing its clarity and weight. "This is quite beautiful," she said. "I'd give you a full sack of my best potatoes. That would last you a long time." The student declined again and continued. Then he sought out a goldsmith, a man known for working with precious metals and gems. The goldsmith took the stone seriously. He lifted it to the light, studied its structure, and weighed it carefully. His eyes widened. "This is no ordinary stone," he said. "It is rare and valuable. I will give you 500 gold coins, enough to live comfortably for many years." The student was stunned, but he remembered his master's instruction and politely refused. Finally, he visited the most respected jeweler in the city, an elderly man who served nobles and royalty and was known for unmatched expertise. The jeweler held the stone with great care, examining it slowly in the bright light of his shop. His face changed from interest to awe. After a long silence, he set the stone on a velvet cloth and looked at the student with deep respect. "This is not simply a stone," he said quietly. "It is one of the finest diamonds I have ever seen. It is priceless. I could not buy it. Even if I sold everything I own, it would not be enough." The student returned to his master, amazed and confused, and told him everything that had happened. The master listened with a gentle smile. "You see," the master said, "the orange seller and the vegetable seller saw only a stone, because that was the limit of their vision. The goldsmith could see that the stone had value because he understood precious materials, but only the master jeweler could see its true worth, because his vision was the clearest and his understanding the deepest." The master then looked directly at his student and said, "Your life is like this diamond. You may see yourself as having little value, like the first merchants did. You may recognize some of your worth, like the goldsmith did. Or you may understand that you are completely priceless, as the master jeweler did. How you value yourself depends entirely on how clearly you are able to see. The Buddha once said, "If we could see the miracle of a single flower clearly, our whole life would change." This teaching speaks not only to how we see the world, but to how we see ourselves. The diamond itself never changed. Its value was always the same. What changed was the perception of the person looking at it. This reveals a simple but powerful truth. Worth does not come from outside recognition. It is revealed through clear seeing. We often undervalue ourselves because we look through the eyes of people who cannot truly see. We may spend years seeking approval from those who only notice surface traits or practical usefulness. Or we may feel satisfied when others recognize our achievements, without realizing that our deepest value goes far beyond success or status. Why is it so hard to recognize our own priceless nature? Because we are taught to measure ourselves by external standards. Productivity, achievement, appearance, income, approval. These measures are not meaningless, but they are limited. They are like judging a diamond by how many oranges it could buy. Consider how you relate to yourself. Do you judge your worth by your job, your body, your relationships, or your finances? These things matter in everyday life, but they do not define your true value. They are partial views, not the whole truth. This story also helps us understand why we sometimes feel hurt or unseen. We may expect understanding from people who do not yet have the clarity to see us deeply. This does not mean ignoring feedback or believing we are above others. It means learning discernment. Not everyone has the eyes of a master jeweler. True recognition comes from those who see with wisdom and care. And the most important of these is yourself. As practice deepens, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. We move beyond surface identities and fixed stories. We start to recognize the diamond we have always been. As a Zen teacher once wrote, "To study the path is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self." When we see clearly, what remains is not a limited identity, but a vast, precious presence that needs no proof of its worth. This teaching also shapes how we see other people. When our perception is limited, we notice only roles, behaviors, or surface traits. But when our attention becomes clearer and kinder, like that of the master jeweler, we begin to sense the priceless nature that lives within everyone we meet. As you reflect now, consider how you have been valuing yourself lately. What might change if you looked at your own life through the eyes of that master jeweler? What would soften if you truly saw that your worth does not depend on achievement, appearance, productivity, or anyone else's approval? The Buddha taught that what we hold in mind shapes how we live. When we see ourselves as truly valuable, we naturally begin to act from that knowing. The diamond does not need to prove itself. It simply shines. Our journey through these teachings now comes to a gentle close. We have traveled together from the simple recognition of life's friction to the quiet freedom of letting go. We have seen that suffering does not come from life itself, but from resisting its movement. We have discovered that beneath the changing weather of thoughts and emotions, the sky of awareness remains open and untouched. We have learned to tune our inner strings, finding balance in the middle way. We have watered the heart with loving kindness. We have seen that we are not separate beings, but expressions of one vast, living whole. Now, let us gather these threads in a final moment of practice. Find a comfortable position. Gently close your eyes. Take a slow, full breath in, and a long, easy breath out. Allow your body to settle. Feel its weight being held, supported, and at ease. Bring your attention to the gentle touch of the breath at your nostrils. For this moment, let this simple sensation be your anchor. If thoughts appear, notice them softly. See them as clouds moving across a wide, open sky. You are the sky, not the clouds. Let them drift in. Let them drift out. Now bring your awareness to your heart. Imagine a small, warm light at the center of your chest. As you breathe in, feel this light becoming a little brighter, a little warmer. As you breathe out, feel that warmth spreading through your whole body. This light is your natural goodness, your Buddha nature. It has never been missing. You do not need to create it. You only need to rest with it. Stay here. Rest in this gentle warmth, in this quiet presence. You are safe. You are whole. You are at peace. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just this moment, just here, just now. Thank you for walking this path with me. Rest well.